Hi, this is Doug Ward from Tech Britain. We're in Edinburgh, the beautiful city. I'm here with the CEO of FanDuel, Nigel. Thanks for your time, Nigel.
No problem.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
You too.
We're doing it out on the streets of Edinburgh, outside Informatic Ventures. We've got Appleton Tower to the side of us. Can we talk about your background to start with, please, Nigel?
Sure. So I've got a pretty varied career. My first startup was in 2000 in London, a company called Flutter.com. I was an early employee. That then merged with Betfair in 2002, and then I joined another startup in Dublin called BetDAG. Then went on to join McKinsey's consultancy for about 5 years. It would take us up to about 5 years ago when we set up our current company, which is now FanDuel.
Fantastic. For our viewers who are watching this, can you explain what FanDuel is?
Sure. So FanDuel is a daily fantasy sports business. Basically what we do if you play fantasy sports is their season-long game where you draft a team of real-world players and then you play them in a league of sort of 10 or 12 people. Well, what we've done is we've taken that season-long concept and we've collapsed it into one day. So you draft your team for one day, you enter a tournament, and if your team beats the other guys in the league, then you win a prize that day. Now the strange thing is sort of what originally as a UK company is that we actually only offer games in the US. So NFL, MLB, basketball and hockey are our major sports.
Which is amazing, right? I mean, your focus is literally not in the UK.
Sure, yeah.
It's in the States.
Yeah, so 100% of our users are US and Canada, which is, quite unusual. It was a deliberate choice. We actually had launched a product before this one called HubDub, and we'd chosen the US market as a much bigger market. And when we decided to move on to another product, we said, the US market's just such a bigger opportunity, and we didn't really, because we'd launched a product there before, we didn't really kind of feel overawed by going there. And we just sort of thought, if we can prove this in the US, we can go international from there. Whereas if we prove it in the UK, it's probably a bigger challenge to take it to the next step. So there's a number of reasons we sort of thought the US is a better market, so we just went after that market.
But with you still being based in Edinburgh, Can we talk about Edinburgh's tech community, what you thought?
Sure, yeah. So for the first sort of 4 years of company existence, we were completely based in Edinburgh, and then last year obviously we moved our headquarters to New York. But your question about the Edinburgh tech community, so we've always been really well supported. We raised our angel round here in Edinburgh, and we raised that amazingly quickly, and certainly when I chat to other entrepreneurs, I in retrospect realise it's like, wow, it wasn't supposed to be as easy as having a meeting, somebody saying I'll invest, him introduced me to a few of his friends, and we had checks within a month. That's nobody else's experience, so that was amazing. So we got that was really good. We raised our Series A in Edinburgh as well. Tech Ventures, who continue to support us all the way through, and they've been a great supportive investor. And then in sort of more recent years, we're seeing a lot more startups like Skyscanner, who are definitely ahead of us. Free Agent Central, coming through and building kind of vibrant tech scene. So I would say 5 years ago it was it was a nascent environment. I think today actually quite exciting in the last sort of year or two.
Fantastic. We speak in the community with members here, and they just buzz about the talent that's coming out of the city.
Sure, yeah.
It's got to be one of the attractions.
I think that's one of the things. It's interesting. We had a board meeting yesterday. So 3 months ago, we went to our board and we said we need to hire, and I think it was 21 people within 3 months, or by the end of the third quarter. So it was about 4 months. And one of our board members, who's based in Silicon Valley, he dials in for a lot of board members. He dials in for a lot of the board calls, and he was like, "Guys, there's no way you're going to do it, right? It's just like you're just not going to hit these numbers. Every board, every company I sit on, recruiter or development recruitment is the #1 concern." And we had our board call yesterday and said, "Well, okay, it's not the end of the third quarter, but we're like, we're 3/4 of the way there." And they were pretty amazed. So, and I think that was one of the things that came out was, and the other thing was like, we're not going to drop our quality bar. We've always said, if we're like, we're totally down to the wire, we need this guy by next week, and we have a candidate comes in and he's a B+, we're not going to hire him, we're going to keep looking. And that's something we've always, and so this, hitting our recruiting targets, but hiring people that we've always think are kind of A-star candidates, I think it's great. And I think it's it's as you say, it's like the quality of people coming out of here. I think is amazing, and I think one of the problems today has been coming out as the operative word is, you know, they graduated from Edinburgh and then they've moved to London because that's where they saw the opportunities. And I think now we see that there's more opportunities here, and that's what we're excited about.
So for guys who are watching this who are thinking about starting out, would you advise them to look outside of the UK?
I think it depends what you want to do. And I'm going to be totally honest on it. I'd love to say, you know, Edinburgh is the best place in the world to start a startup, but I'd be lying. And the last person I ever want to lie to is somebody who's starting out a company. I think, you know, everybody sees the sort of failure rates. Nobody really internalizes them themselves, right? Because it's like, when I started, it was like, you know, 90% of them fail, and you're like, yeah, but I'm not in that 90, I'm that 10. Everybody does that, and it's wrong to kind of paint a rosy picture to people and say, yeah, it doesn't apply to you. It does. It applies to everybody. Starting, you know, I would be honest, and I'd say starting a web-based, particularly consumer web-based business in London is definitely harder in, well, I'd say starting it in New York is harder than Silicon Valley. I'd say London is harder than New York, and I'd say Edinburgh is harder than London. For a number of things. It's like, it's harder to raise money. It's harder to get that co-founder who's got a really good experience. The one area where it does, certainly we find it to be easier, is hiring talented developers, and the reason is the market here isn't as competitive as it would be in London, certainly not as Silicon Valley. So in the later stages, I think it is there is an advantage here, but in that early stages where you're looking for advisors, you're looking for investors, and you're looking for that co-founder, you know, London is an easier market.
Oh, I appreciate your honesty. In terms of the UK government, how do you think they can be helping the tech community right now? So we have been helped by Scottish Enterprise here in the UK, and we've also been in a few events like Web Mission back in 2008, which was a great program. I think when I look at it, and so we've been helping in a number of ways, but when I actually look at where the value has come from, there's probably about 2 or 3 areas where I've seen real value. One value I see where the UK government has done really good things is like the sort of Starter for 6 program. The real kind of like, I have no idea what to do, and I just need some advice and a little bit of money. Our Prince's Trust is very good at that as well. I think that's somewhere the government's really good, and I think that's something they've done really well. I think in some areas it's been a bit stop-start. You know, this program starts, and then it sort of runs out of funding, and then it stops, and kind of a lot of the knowledge is lost on that. I think that's one issue in that. The next one I think I've seen them do really well was like Web Mission 08, which was, you know, they had a competition of like the best startups in their consumer, I think it was consumer web startups in the UK. You know, they selected 10 or 20 and they brought them to the Valley. That was transformational for us. And again, the problem with that was there was Web Mission 08, but I don't think there was a Web Mission 09, and there certainly wasn't a Web Mission 10. So again, that was somewhere where I saw value. The other area that we've seen value is in Scottish Enterprise is their co-investment fund. So when Pentech invested in their Series A, Scottish Enterprise came in and matched their funding. That doubles the size of Pentech's fund. It de-risked it for them. And for us, it meant that we could go twice as long without looking for external funding. So those kind of 3 areas I think it's a lot of benefit. And then outside that is more sort of infrastructure, so making investing in startups more tax efficient is always a good one. The areas that I'm less keen on are more sort of direct investment to like our grants to startups, that sort of thing. I don't think that works well, but I do think co-investment works well. Fantastic. And plans for the future?
So we operate in a market where there's something like 30 million fantasy sports players. 30 million fantasy sports players in America. We have scratched the surface of that. We've got a product that we think is fundamentally better than traditional fantasy sports.
We also think in the long game that we actually have something that really transforms sports entertainment. Like, so you've got this, sports is a great experience. Like, sports is one of the areas of broadcast television that's booming. It's growing. Like, the sports rights costs are increasing. But why is that? Well, it's one area where broadcasters are not being challenged on. It's like people love sports and they're paying for it. They're willing to pay for sports, and it's that slot of entertainment that they're not gonna TiVo. They're gonna watch it then. It's live sports is so much better than recorded sports. So what we find with our product is it's a two-screen, it's a complementary product to that sports experience. So we kind of create something that makes that sports much more exciting. It's like what they find in the US is that people who play fantasy sports watch way more sports. And the reason they watch it is like you've got this kind of game between two teams. You don't really care either side, but you know what, that running back is in your team. Hey, you care now. And that's what happens. So that's what we're trying to do is in the long run, we want to kind of really explode that two-screen experience to kind of make sports even more exciting, more engagement. And that's kind of our long-term vision.
Fantastic. It's been a real pleasure to meet you.
No problem. Thank you. Cheers.